Have you ever looked at a cruise ship's path and thought, wait, that makes no sense? Like a trip from Los Angeles to Hawaii, two American spots, but for some reason, it has to stop in Mexico along the way. Well, the answer isn't about getting in some extra sightseeing. It's actually because of a single, really powerful law that's been steering American ships for over 100 years. Right, so let's get into it. This law's official name is the Merchant Marine Act of 1920, but pretty much everyone just calls it the Jones Act. And what it does is quietly control the movement of, well, just about everything, from cargo to cruise ships between any two ports in the United States. And trust me, once you understand how it works, you'll start seeing its effects everywhere. At its heart, the Jones Act is built on just a few kind of simple rules. But don't let that simplicity fool you. These rules create these huge ripples across our economy, affecting everything from the price of your groceries to the basic foundations of America's national security. So, what are these rules? Well, think of it like a four-part checklist. If you want to move goods between two American ports, your ship has to be built right here in the U.S. Second, it has to be owned by U.S. citizens. Third, it has to fly the American flag. And finally, the crew, at least 75% of them, have to be U.S. citizens. If you can check all four boxes, you're good to go. But as you can imagine, this creates a very exclusive and very expensive club. Now, to really get why this law even exists, we have to jump in a time machine and go all the way back to 1920. The whole world was just coming out of the chaos of the First World War. So picture this. It's World War I, and America suddenly realizes it has a huge problem. For years, the U.S. had relied on foreign ships for a lot of its trade. But when the war broke out, all those ships got called back home by their own countries. And just like that, the U.S. was left scrambling, struggling to move its own soldiers and supplies. The Jones Act was basically born from this crisis, designed to make sure that would never happen again. And they spelled it out right there in the law itself. The goal was to build a self-sufficient American fleet of ships that could help the Navy in wartime, but also boost American business during peacetime. It was supposed to be this two-for-one deal, an economic engine that was also a pillar of national defense. Okay, let's fast forward 100 years to today. The world has obviously changed a lot, but the Jones Act? Not so much. And the echoes of that 1920 law are causing some very modern and often really controversial situations. This is where things start to get a little weird. See, building ships in the US and hiring American crews costs way more than doing it overseas. And that extra cost has to go somewhere, right? It leads to these bizarre outcomes where it can literally be cheaper to ship oil from Texas all the way across the Atlantic to Europe than it is to just send it up the coast to New Jersey. And that economic hit is felt the hardest in places like Puerto Rico, Hawaii, and Alaska. A 2024 study from Purdue University estimated that the Jones Act costs the Puerto Rican economy about $1.4 billion every single year. And get this, a huge piece of that, almost $700 million, falls directly on consumers, on the people who actually live there. For places that rely on ships for almost everything, when shipping costs go up, so does the price of milk, bread, you name it. And the ripple effects just keep spreading. That strange cruise itinerary we started with, that's the Jones Act. The fact that New England sometimes has to import natural gas from Russia because we don't have enough US-built tankers to bring it from our own Gulf Coast, that's the Jones Act. It even makes building offshore wind farms more expensive, all because of a shortage of the right kind of American ships. So, as you can probably guess, this has all sparked a really fierce, century-long debate. It's a modern-day tug-of-war, with some seriously powerful interests pulling on both sides of the rope. The arguments are pretty clear. On one side, you have supporters who say the law is absolutely vital for our national security, it keeps our shipyards open, it guarantees we have ships and sailors in a crisis, and it protects American jobs. But on the other side, critics argue it's just outdated protectionism that jacks up prices for consumers, kills competition, and really hurts people in places like Puerto Rico and Hawaii. A huge part of the argument for the law comes down to jobs. Supporters will point out that the domestic maritime industry supports an estimated 650,000 American jobs and adds billions to the economy every year. But critics come back with a really tough counterpoint. They say the law is actually failing at its main goal. Because even with all this protection, the fleet of big ocean-going American ships has been shrinking for decades. We went from about 250 ships in the 1980s to less than 100 today. It kind of makes you ask, what exactly are we protecting? Now, here's a key word you'll hear in this whole debate: cabotage.
It sounds fancy, but it just means moving stuff between 2 points in the same country. The Jones Act is America's main cabotage law, and while lots of countries have laws like this, the U.S. version is known for being one of the strictest in the world.
So here we are. We've got a law that was created for the world of 1920, and it's trying to navigate the waters of a completely globalized 21st century economy. The Jones Act is truly a law at a crossroads. So why doesn't it ever change? Well, despite all the calls for reform, the law is defended by an incredibly powerful team. You have American shipbuilders, maritime unions, and key players in the defense industry all working together, which makes the Jones Act one of the toughest, most resilient laws on the books. When you boil it all down, this whole debate is about a few fundamental trade-offs. Are we willing to pay more for things as an insurance policy for our national security? Is protecting a specific set of American jobs worth having less competition? And in a world that's more connected than ever, how much should we really prioritize doing everything ourselves? There are no easy answers here. And that leaves us with the big question. In today's world, is this 100-year-old law a vital shield protecting American security and jobs? Or is it an economic anchor weighing us all down? The hidden reason your cruise takes that weird detour and your groceries cost just a little bit more. It's a question that, even after a century, is still sailing on.